For decades, scientists have pointed the lenses of the most powerful space telescopes into deep space in search of a second Earth. The discovery of the exoplanet TRAPPIST-1e initially seemed like the greatest triumph of modern astronomy and the long-awaited answer to humanity's age-old questions. The newly discovered rocky world was located right in the center of the habitable zone and possessed a solid surface, ideally suited for the emergence of biological life. But the latest spectral data turned out to be utterly alarming and defied any optimistic scientific explanation. The scientific community was confronted with the absolute impossibility of familiar life forms existing under conditions that had been considered the most favorable. The researchers' initial excitement rapidly gave way to deep anxiety as the new data from the orbital observatories were deciphered. This planetary system operates contrary to all expectations, revealing a completely different, hostile, and merciless mechanism of the universe. The surrounding cosmos turned out to be a far more dangerous and inhospitable place, concealing deadly traps beneath the guise of ideal planets. The discovery of an astonishing planetary system orbiting a solitary red dwarf was the result of long and painstaking photometric observations. Astronomers used the transit method, carefully recording the slightest changes in the brightness of a distant star in the constellation Aquarius. Regular dips in brightness unmistakably indicated the presence of a whole group of planets orbiting very close to the star. This event instantly became the biggest sensation in the scientific world, as 7 rocky worlds were found clustered around a single small star. The central star of this system is an ultra-cool red dwarf, which is significantly inferior to the Sun in mass and temperature. Such dim stars are capable of existing for trillions of years, providing their planets with an incredibly long and stable supply of thermal energy. Researchers have always considered such an incredibly long lifespan to be an ideal factor for the peaceful evolutionary development of complex biological organisms. Theoretical calculations showed that there had been more than enough time for civilizations to emerge there since the very beginning of the galaxy's formation. The compactness of the discovered system has struck the imagination of even the most experienced planetary scientists and astrophysicists of our time.
All 7 of the discovered worlds are located much closer to their parent star than Mercury is to the Sun.
Despite this extreme proximity, the red dwarf's low temperature prevents the surfaces of these celestial bodies from being instantly incinerated. The planet's orbits form a complex, resonant dance that ensures the remarkable gravitational stability of this entire multi-component system. Experts have begun actively modeling possible climate scenarios for this intriguing celestial object. Optimistic computer simulations painted picturesque pictures of deep seas, dense clouds, and moderate temperatures. Researchers hypothesized that a dense atmosphere could effectively distribute heat across the entire surface, creating comfortable conditions.
In scientific articles, the planet was described as an ideal oasis, bathed in the warm rays of a long-lived red dwarf.
Large-scale exoplanet exploration programs were immediately redirected to a thorough study of this particular star system. Ground-based radio telescopes and optical observatories simultaneously turned their mirrors toward the constellation Aquarius to gather additional data. Scientists sincerely expected to detect chemical markers unequivocally indicating active biological processes. The theoretical basis seemed so flawless that no one entertained the thought of a catastrophic failure. The media quickly picked up the story, dubbing the discovery a new potential home for the future of humanity. Artists painted inspiring landscapes featuring a massive red sun hanging over a tranquil alien ocean. people began seriously discussing the possibilities of interstellar travel and sending robotic probes to this promising system. The anticipation of imminent confirmation of habitability created the illusion that the universe was filled with friendly and safe worlds. Data collected by subsequent missions began to methodically and mercilessly shatter this beautiful illusion of an ideal world. A close study of the parent star's behavior revealed factors that completely alter the rules of survival in close orbits. That very same life-saving red dwarf turned out to be a source of a deadly threat, incompatible with the preservation of an atmosphere. The moment had come when rigorous science collided with facts that refuted the very essence of the concept of a second Earth. The initial physical characteristics of TRAPPIST-1e looked like an incredibly lucky win in the cosmic lottery. The planet's mass is approximately 90% of Earth's, providing nearly identical gravity. Such gravity is critical for retaining a dense gaseous envelope and establishing normal atmospheric pressure. Surface conditions were expected to allow hypothetical inhabitants to move about without immense physical strain. The exoplanet's radius also almost perfectly matches the dimensions of our home planet. Such density clearly indicates the presence of a massive iron core surrounded by a silicate mantle and a solid crust. Such a geological structure is an absolute necessity for the initiation of plate tectonics and volcanic activity. In turn, these internal processes serve as the primary mechanism for regulating the carbon cycle on a global scale. It was expected that the planet's surface would feature full-fledged oceans, rivers, and vast continental landmasses. The geological similarity to Earth implied the presence of diverse landscapes, ranging from high mountain ranges to deep basins. Such a diversity of habitats promotes accelerated species evolution and the creation of complex ecological systems. Each new figure in the astrophysicists' calculations added to the confidence that the world was suitable for colonization. A dense gaseous envelope was expected to act as a reliable thermostat, smoothing out temperature fluctuations between day and night. The greenhouse effect created by water vapor and carbon dioxide would ensure the maintenance of global warmth. Computer simulations showed that even under the dim light of the red dwarf, the atmosphere would maintain a comfortable climate. All known variables came together to form an absolutely flawless and incredibly appealing picture of habitability. For a long time, researchers believed that the system's age also played a significant role in favor of potential life. TRAPPIST-1 has existed for about 8 billion years, which is twice the current age of our solar system. Such a long period of stability provides evolution with boundless opportunities for the development of intelligence and advanced technologies. If life is capable of emerging at all, it would have had the maximum amount of time here to achieve perfection. But it was precisely this phase of detailed study that became a turning point in our understanding of red dwarf systems. The attempt to confirm the ideal, calculated characteristics led to the discovery of completely unpredictable and extremely alarming anomalies. The reality hidden behind the dry figures of the initial photometric data turned out to be cruel and merciless. Space has once again proven that simple mathematical coincidences do not guarantee the existence of life. The brilliant theory of a peaceful world shattered against the cruel laws of astrophysics reigning near dim stars. The ideal proportions of mass and orbit proved utterly useless in the face of the red dwarf's hidden destructive power. The illusion of a second Earth began to melt away rapidly, giving way to a cold realization of the universe's hostility. Observations revealed that the system harbors fatal flaws that make biological survival absolutely impossible. New data from the telescope's infrared sensors completely refuted all the theorists' optimistic predictions. The instrument was supposed to detect clear traces of carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor in the planet's atmosphere. These chemical markers are an indispensable sign of the presence of a dense atmosphere and potential biological activity.
Instead, high-precision spectrometers recorded something that sent the scientific community into a state of shock.
The resulting spectral analysis graphs turned out to be completely flat and devoid of the expected absorption lines. This categorically contradicted the basic assumption of the existence of a dense gas layer around the exoplanet. The signals indicated a near-total absence of significant amounts of gases capable of trapping thermal radiation. The picture of the universe, which had seemed so solid and logical, began to crumble right before the astonished researchers' eyes. The absence of characteristic spectral signatures directly indicated a critical lack of atmospheric pressure. Without a reliable gaseous shield, the ideal habitable zone instantly loses all its physical meaning and value. The vacuum of space comes into direct contact with the bare surface, turning a hypothetical oasis into a lifeless desert. This fact dealt the first serious blow to the concept of the widespread existence of habitable worlds in the galaxy. Scientists began to closely analyze the behavior of the parent star itself to find the source of this anomaly. Attention focused on the electromagnetic characteristics of the red dwarf, which had previously been considered insignificant. It turned out that a star's long lifespan does not guarantee its calm and stable thermal behavior. Outwardly dim stars harbor aggressive processes within them capable of affecting nearby orbits. This anomaly is not merely a local phenomenon of a single specific star system in the constellation Aquarius. It points to a fundamental error in humanity's understanding of the mechanisms of planetary evolution around red dwarfs. It gradually became clear that proximity to a weak heat source comes at a fatal cost. This is not a safe haven, but a zone of constant and extremely aggressive radiation exposure. Old hypotheses did not account for the colossal difference in stellar wind dynamics between stars of different spectral classes. What works for yellow dwarfs like the Sun is completely inapplicable to cold and compact stars. The illusion of safety was finally shattered, giving way to an understanding of the brutal rules of cosmic survival. Subsequent discoveries only exacerbated the picture, revealing the true scale of the unfolding catastrophe. The situation becomes significantly worse upon closer examination of the physics of processes within red dwarfs. Despite their overall dimness and low temperature, such stars exhibit incredibly violent magnetic activity. They generate stellar flares of monstrous power, far exceeding solar storms. These regular cataclysms transform the surrounding space into a zone of deadly and merciless radiation. In the early stages of their long lives, red dwarfs can remain extremely unstable for billions of years. During this critical period, the star constantly spews out gigantic streams of hard X-ray and ultraviolet radiation. Since the habitable zone of a red dwarf is very close to the star, the planets bear the full brunt of the impact. The distance from TRAPPIST-1e to the star is so small that the stellar wind literally blows away the upper layers of the atmosphere. High-energy particles collide with gas molecules, imparting enough velocity to overcome gravity. This continuous process of erosion gradually but inevitably strips away the rocky surface of the defenseless world. Scientists long ignored this factor, blinded by the simple geometry of the calculated habitable zone. They believed that the star's faint overall luminosity would compensate for its magnetic and radiative instability. However, nature clearly demonstrates that average temperatures are irrelevant in the face of constant radiation bombardment. Seeking shelter in the shadow of the red dwarf turned out to be a fatal error in the astrophysicists' mathematical calculations. The deadly rays of the parent star scorch not only the planet itself, but also humanity's hopes for a cosmic future. TRAPPIST-1e, once considered an excellent candidate for colonization, now appears as a radioactive rock. And the most terrifying thing is that radiation is far from the only fundamental problem with this system. The mechanics of orbital motion set another insurmountable, deadly trap for the researchers. Due to its extreme proximity to its massive parent star, the planet inevitably falls victim to a brutal tidal lock. The colossal gravitational forces of the red dwarf act on the rocky body like a powerful electromagnetic brake. As a result, millions of years ago, TRAPPIST-1e's rotation around its own axis came to a complete halt. Now this world is doomed to forever face its dim sun with only one unchanging side. This phenomenon creates conditions that are completely incompatible with maintaining a stable global climate. The illuminated hemisphere is under the continuous influence of stellar radiation, never plunging into refreshing shade. Temperatures on the day side reach incredible levels, turning the surface into a scorching stone desert. Any water reserves here evaporate instantly, and rocks can melt under direct sunlight. Many scientists previously optimistically assumed that life could survive in the narrow terminator zone. This twilight zone separates the scorching day from the freezing night, creating the illusion of a hypothetical temperate climate. Furthermore, without the protection of a dense atmosphere, the terminator zone provides no real temperature gradient. The transition from scorching heat to cosmic cold occurs extremely abruptly, with no gentle intermediate zones. This phenomenon is not a rare exception. It is strictly mandatory for all worlds near red dwarfs. The laws of gravitational physics are inexorable, and any planet in the habitable zone of such stars is doomed to cease rotating. The situation is exacerbated by the fact that the absence of rotation inevitably leads to the collapse of internal protective mechanisms. The frozen core ceases to generate vital force fields, leaving the planet completely exposed. This next stage of destruction finally dashes any faint hopes for the existence of an extraterrestrial biosphere. The catastrophe takes on a comprehensive nature, leaving researchers with no grounds for positive predictions. The planet's rotation around its axis plays a critical role in generating a global magnetic field. The geodynamo effect arises from the complex motion of molten metals in the inner core of the rotating world. The cessation of TRAPPIST-1e's rotation due to tidal locking fatally affected its internal geological processes. The exoplanet's core has practically ceased to generate magnetic field lines powerful enough to create a shield. The planet found itself completely stripped of its natural armor in the face of aggressive emissions from its dim star. This fact became the final nail in the coffin of all optimistic theories regarding the planet's habitability. Scientists conducted complex simulations, attempting to find ways to preserve the magnetosphere of tidally locked planets. Calculations show that the residual convective currents in the mantle are completely insufficient to resist the stellar wind. The field, if it exists at all, is so weak that it is pressed directly against the surface of the ground by radiation. It is unable to encompass the atmosphere and protect volatile gases from inevitable cosmic stripping. This process of complete magnetic stripping has been operating continuously throughout the billions of years of the system's existence. The planet was doomed to become a lifeless rock the very moment its daily rotation ceased. This cause and effect relationship operates with flawless rigidity and has no exceptions known to astrophysics. The absence of a geodynamo transforms the habitable zone into a beautiful but utterly empty and useless mathematical abstraction. Understanding this physical inevitability is causing deep concern in academic circles around the world. If a magnetic field is such a rare phenomenon, then Earth is not the rule, but an incredible anomaly. The observed picture is forcing the scientific community to rethink its very approach to classifying star systems. Old methods for assessing the habitability of planets have proven catastrophically naive and erroneous. We must acknowledge the bitter truth that most supposed discoveries were nothing but an illusion. The concept of the Goldilocks zone is crumbling before our eyes, revealing a terrifying cosmic void. For decades, the concept of the habitable zone served as the primary guide for all space exploration programs. Scientists sincerely believed that the correct distance from a star guaranteed the presence of liquid water on the surface. This simple and straightforward geometry made it easy to classify new exoplanets in astronomical catalogs. But the story of the TRAPPIST-1e system has clearly demonstrated the profound fundamental flaw in this basic approach. It turned out that the distance from the heat source is just one of dozens of critically important parameters. A planet's location within this ideal zone does not guarantee the presence of a life-sustaining atmosphere or a magnetic shield. If an orbit lies within a red dwarf's habitable zone, it automatically falls within the tidal lock zone. These two invisible physical boundaries in dim star systems almost always overlap. Thus, any theoretical heat is instantly negated by the cessation of rotation and the total destruction of the magnetosphere. Under such conditions, the habitable zone turns into a deadly trap where life cannot physically survive. Researchers are forced to bitterly admit that their previous optimistic press releases were premature. Hundreds of planets proudly proclaimed as potentially habitable Earth-like twins are in fact completely dead. They are in the right place, but exist under conditions of brutal radiation terror from their star. This discovery devalues the vast amount of work done by ground-based observatories in recent years. Space agencies are being forced to urgently rethink their priorities in the development of next-generation telescopes. The search is shifting to much rarer and harder-to-reach stars, similar to our own Sun. This frightening realization of humanity's isolation is gradually taking hold not only among specialists, but throughout society as a whole. Hopes for the imminent discovery of intelligent life are fading in the merciless light of X-ray flashes from dim stars. We realize that our cozy mathematical model of the universe was merely a defensive psychological reaction. The real cosmos is indifferent to our dreams and extremely hostile to any manifestations of complex organic life. The fallacy of the habitable zone concept is a harsh lesson in intellectual humility for Earth-based science. It proves that the universe is under no obligation to conform to our naive expectations and simplified diagrams. The scale of this tragedy is magnified many times over when we consider the actual statistics of the galaxy's stellar population, and it is precisely these statistics that deal the final blow to hopes for a universe teeming with life. Red dwarfs are not a rare exoticity in the vast expanse of our spiral galaxy, the Milky Way. On the contrary, this class of dim stars accounts for about 75% of absolutely all existing stars. They dominate the universe thanks to their incredible longevity and slow consumption of thermonuclear fuel. It is precisely this fact that makes the conclusions about the TRAPPIST-1 system truly catastrophic for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. If the planets orbiting such stars are subject to atmospheric radiation stripping and tidal locking, the consequences are terrifying. This directly implies that 3/4 of all planetary systems in the universe are, by default, completely lifeless. A global cosmic dead zone encompasses the vast majority of worlds that were previously considered promising for biology. Space has suddenly turned out to be an incredibly empty and hostile expanse of gigantic proportions. The scale of this discovery completely changes the philosophical view of the distribution of life potential in nature. The universe seems to have been specifically designed to prevent the spread of complex organic structures. The dominant type of stars acts as a ruthless cosmic sterilizer, scorching all life at its roots. This is a systemic limitation embedded in the very basic architecture of the universe since the Big Bang. Every new infrared image from telescopes only confirms these grim and all-encompassing statistics. The void in the spectral data of TRAPPIST-1e has become a prototype for billions of other systems throughout the galaxy. Scientists no longer search for atmospheres around red dwarfs. They simply record yet another dead world. This scientific routine is filled with the deepest existential horror in the face of indifferent emptiness. The realization that space consists mainly of deadly traps completely shatters popular science fiction dreams. The illusion of an abundance of habitable worlds has finally dissolved in the harsh X-ray radiation of dim stars. This discovery deals a crushing blow not only to theoretical astrobiology but also to humanity's practical plans. It jeopardizes the very meaningful existence of any future interstellar colonization programs. A thorough study of dead worlds like TRAPPIST-1e forces us to look at our own existence in a completely different light. All those parameters that seem natural and ordinary to us on Earth are incredible cosmic anomalies. The presence of a powerful magnetic field, a fast rotation rate, and a calm yellow star is an astrophysical miracle. The probability of such an ideal coincidence in the chaotic and brutal cosmos mathematically approaches absolute zero. We can no longer afford to make mistakes because there is no prospect of external salvation or help from advanced neighbors. The entire responsibility for the survival of the only known civilization rests solely on the shoulders of humanity itself. Instead of gazing at distant stars with naive hope, scientists look upon them with justified trepidation. Every flash of a red dwarf in the telescope serves as a reminder of how easily entire planetary systems are destroyed. Space is not a nurturing cradle. It is a ruthless mechanism grinding matter without any intent or purpose. Earth has miraculously escaped these millstones, but our luck cannot last forever without our active involvement. This existential fear of the void must become the primary impetus for reevaluating all of our civilizational priorities. The illusion of a second Earth has been shattered, leaving us face to face with the harsh and uncompromising reality of the laws of physics. We must focus all our colossal technological efforts on protecting our one and only incredibly rare home. The uniqueness of Earth's biosphere makes any local destruction of it a crime of galactic proportions. The story of TRAPPIST-1e is not merely a scientific disappointment, it is a fundamental shift in human consciousness. We have finally seen the true face of the cosmos, free from comforting theories and mathematical assumptions. It stares at us with the icy, lifeless gaze of infinite emptiness, promising neither salvation nor easy answers. Reality is not what we thought it was, and now we must learn to live with this terrifying knowledge.